Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. Welcome to part 2 of the Sinder controversy because she is now officially quote-unquote apologized. We covered this in yesterday's video. If you want the full details leading up to today, I suggest watching that video. But if you want a quick breakdown of everything before we look at the new apology, basically you have this large indie VTuber named Sinder who found herself in a lot of controversy after a series of Google Docs were released about her, beginning with this one from the artist Nanolist, who detailed their personal experience with Sinder as well as Sinder's manager slash secret boyfriend named Redacted, where those two individuals would badmouth and slander many content creators in their space, and then they try to get Nanolist, a very popular artist, to sign an exclusivity agreement with Sinder, meaning that Nanolist could only work with Sinder. And in this proposed agreement, there were specific content creators mentioned that they could no longer work with. Now, some of these content creators were just random people that had no personal relationship with Sinder. It was just pure jealousy on Sinder's part and insecurity. But there were some content creators that viewed Sinder as a close friend. Basically, Sinder was trying to sabotage the careers of her own friends for what, you may ask? Simply financial gain. She wanted to stay as the top dog in the indie scene, and she wanted even her own friends to suffer for her own success. Obviously, this doesn't go over well, and it goes even worse because Sinder would quickly try to get on top of this and make a statement that gets hit with a community note with all the relevant evidence, where she tried to basically blame all of this on the manager boyfriend, saying it's all his fault and he has been fired. Well, that didn't go over well, as you can see by the metrics here on Social Blade. On Twitch alone, she lost 5,000 followers on Saturday, 6,500 followers on Sunday, and over 8,100 followers so far today. And then on YouTube, she lost 5,000 on Saturday, 6,000 on Sunday, and over 10,000 so far today. And you might have noticed that the number for today is the biggest, and it's blowing up even more as the day goes on. And that's because, well, she apologized, and that's going very badly. But you also saw fans going nuts. People were literally burning their Sinder merch. Now, I get the frustration, but as pointed out here, I think the best route, especially with any sort of clothing related merch, if you don't want to support her anymore, I would suggest donating it instead of destroying it, because I don't think some like kid in need who's cold and needs a sweater would mind if there's a disgraced hellhound VTuber on it. Like, you know what I'm saying? But as I mentioned, there was the official Google Doc apology from Sinder. This was, of course, uploaded within an hour or so of yesterday's video. As always, that always happens. But you can see down here before we read the document, Shy Lily, like looming down here with this very threatening presence. We're going to read her response that would ratio this attempted apology into the Shadow Realm. So I'm going to do something that I know you guys appreciate. I'm going to try to make this Google Doc rundown as simple and efficient as possible. I could sit here and read all 7 pages of what looks like a college student trying to get their essay in on time and reaching a certain word count. But I'm going to summarize this in a very simple way. All you have to do is keyword search sorry. Yep, sorry. There's about 20 mentions of sorry in this 7-page essay here. And the first one you find, the first mention of the word sorry, is on page 5, at the end of page 5. Yeah, that's not a very good apology. Overall, this is not the worst apology in YouTube history. Like, Sinder didn't pull out a ukulele or anything like that, but when you're making an apology that is 7 pages long and it takes 5 pages to reach the first sorry, it's not a good look. And on top of that, those first 5 pages, complete gobbledygook, okay? A waste of time, as I have said. And she begins and continues on throughout the entire apology, trying to shift all the blame on her manager slash boyfriend. She tries to paint him as responsible for everything and that Sinder had no idea what he was doing. And it's very evident right here, right at the beginning. The only part from the first 5 pages we're going to actually look at here. In regards to Nanolist, they say this: I was not fully aware of the extent of Red's manipulation over Nano's commission decisions, and I should have been more diligent in my oversight. She's basically saying I had no idea this was happening and I should have been watching a little closer, even though there's plenty of interactions between Sinder and Nanolis about these exclusivity agreements and who she can or can't work with. It's just a bunch of BS. But let's skip to the good part where the sorries actually start happening, and it begins right here with this saying, I don't deserve to be able to contact everyone involved directly to personally apologize, so I'll do it here in the chance they read it. So they begin with Nano, and again, to make this efficient, we're going to just focus on the sections where we see a mention of sorry. So we begin right off the bat. I'm sorry for letting things get to this point. I'm not sorry for any individual action. I'm sorry it got to this point. Or even entertain the thought of you working exclusively with me. That's not fair to you. I wouldn't be here without you, and I wouldn't have been able to do most of what I've already done without you. I felt overly attached to our relationship over the past 4 years and loved your work so much that I wanted to make myself exclusive to your art and should have never sought those feelings to be reciprocated. Everything you've ever worked on for me was always so perfect, and I lost sight of how everyone else around me would have felt. I had no intentions of pressuring you into anything, but looking back on my clouded judgment, I can see how those messages felt that way. Yes, so basically trying to, again, act like she had no idea what's going on. She begins with the sorry, basically saying, sorry, I wanted to isolate you from other content creators and other business opportunities for my own personal greed, and I used you as a sort of proxy for my own pettiness, where I wanted to use you in a way to sabotage VTubers I'm jealous of, including some of my own close friends. Yeah, that is a pretty messed up thing to do, and this apology to Nano is very, very weak, and it's trying to deflect blame on basically not understanding the extent of what's going on here. We now move on to Bao, who was a very close friend of Sinder and someone very affected by this, someone who was directly named in some of those exclusivity agreements. And they basically try to do the same thing, talking about how they're just such a great friend and they're disgusted with themselves for buying into the narrative that my friends were competition. Interesting. They begin by saying that and saying, basically, I'm sorry these ideas were filled into my head. As she says here, but I did. I'm sorry for not reaching out sooner about these ideas that were put in my head. She's basically saying someone else put this idea in her head to sabotage her own friends, and she was just helpless. She was basically possessed by this idea, and, you know, her hands moved on the keyboard all by themselves. She did absolutely nothing wrong. Let's move on to Sack. This one's a very weird one, saying, I love getting to chat with you in person and absolutely loved all the hard work you put into the Boss Rush song. I was so grateful to hear that you were on board to edit the MV. I don't remember exactly why the stream got pushed back, but I definitely wouldn't have put the blame on you knowing about how soon the deadline was when you started working on it. I was so thankful for your willingness to complete the project despite everything, and the quality of how it turned out was incredible. I can't believe how Red talked about you, especially after all the effort you put in for me. Yeah, it's another sorry this all happened, and sorry that Red did this to you. She's not taking any personal accountability here. Obviously, this is a theme so far. Now she moves on to Cottontail and Shy Lily, who were dragged into this. Yeah, she begins by saying, I'm so sorry you had to get dragged into this. It's my fault I let it get this far, but I hope you can believe me when I say I had no knowledge of Red bringing you up in Nano's DMs. Amazing. It's the boyfriend's fault again. And she's sorry they got dragged into this. You know, the jealousy that she expressed regularly. Sorry that that actually was connected to you. And yeah, again, a D- for this one. Another very bad grade on this apology. Then we address Silverveil here, who was a very interesting part of this whole series. She released a Google Doc on her role. She was directly mentioned as one of the VTubers that Nanolis could not work with, and she expressed many other thoughts about how she hates that people compare the two, and she just wants to break free from Silverveil, and Silverveil's like, I don't know who you are. Like, it's absolutely insane, and And Silvervale was approached by Sinder on multiple occasions where she was basically trying to create a like fake friendship for financial gain. And it was very clear that's what it was. And Silvervale just said, no, I'm not interested in any of that. But again, following the sorry format here, just looking for the mentions of that, you can see her addressing the whole photo thing. And she thought that this was the result of her being pressured by the community. That's why she took that photo together with Sinder acting like they're friends when in reality they had never spoken before. She also says this. This is amazing. I was so wrong for letting everyone get in my head about all these malicious feelings. I'm so sorry for any opportunities I've taken away from you. I'm sorry, Silver. So she's literally saying, again, I'm sorry other people's thoughts affected my behavior. Like, again, she had no control over her own thoughts and actions because people were making comparisons between Silvervale and Sinder. Then you have this spite individual who really just kind of got shortchanged here. I mean, 3 lines. This was someone that, again, they were comparing themselves to and saying that Spite was trying to rip off Sinder with some of their decisions, and that was proven very false. But you can see, to Spite, I'm sorry I had assumed things about your design that weren't true, and I'm sorry you've been harassed by commenters needing to compare us, and I apologize for the way Red spoke about you to Nano. You don't deserve any of this. I'm sorry. That one's wild. Only 3 lines, and for a person who's pretty involved, and on top of that, they're, again, talking about the other commenters who were comparing us and apologizing for Red. Crazy. Then you have this one to Peaches here, where it says, I'm sorry if I made it seem like I was ignoring or ghosting you. And this is another thing you see again and again, where it says, I'm sorry you feel this way based on what I did. Not saying I'm sorry for what I did. No, it's I'm sorry you felt that way. That's never a good thing in a attempt at an apology. Then you have Rain here saying, by the way, this is the guy who claims that he was involved with her with sexting and stuff while she was in a relationship with Red years ago. Well, she confirmed it earlier in the document that yes, she was in fact cheating on her secret boyfriend manager. They were both very aware that she had a boyfriend at the time. Nobody was a saint in that situation, but she confirmed it. And then this is her apology to the guy she cheated on her boyfriend with. Okay? You were the first person I met as an ASM artist. During a time where I was immature and vulnerable, I ended up being consumed by the content I was making, and it led me to making awful decisions I still think about and regret. I was not in a good spot at the time. I've hated myself for this kind of behavior, and it took a long time for me to move on from what happened. I have no excuses. I'm sorry you were dragged into my drama, and I'm sorry how I made you feel after I just wanted to close the book on things. I cannot believe the apology to the guy she cheated on her boyfriend with is more legitimate and more heartfelt than pretty much everyone else in this scenario. It's kind of wild if you think about it. But this is the last stop on the apology tour here to our community. I'm sorry to my pyro pups and my mods for expecting me to lead a better example than this. I'm sorry to the VTuber community for always looking at me as someone to aspire to. I'm sorry to Kaiser, who's put his heart and soul into everything he's ever done with me and not even talking to you about how I felt. I'm sorry to the dozens of artists that have put their hard work into me, and I'm sorry to the rest of my friends who I've let down. I've led a bad example, and I don't expect forgiveness. I've made many mistakes over the 5 years on the internet. I'm only one person living the one life I get for the first time and only time like everyone else. As I said at the start, I ended up developing an extremely unhealthy work-life balance, and the harm Red has caused with the way he viewed things is irreparable. Even in her apology to her community, she says, I'm sorry about working too hard, and then I'm sorry what Red did to you. Absolutely amazing. Crazy work, and yeah. As you might expect, this is going over very poorly. Not only are fans leaving, but all of her peers, all of her friends, all of her collaborators, they're all dunking on her. Pretty much every big indie VTuber has come out and replied to this apology, and it's brutal. And I'm going to start with the most brutal one, the hardest ratio in the West, Shy Lily, who normally doesn't engage in drama, so this is a pretty surprising response. And this is the longest one we're going to read, but let's get into it. The absolute audacity to sit here and continue to manipulate and gaslight is absolutely insane. The pain and mental torment you've caused to the ones closest and most supportive of you has been devastating, and I have never been so heartbroken and hurt so badly for my friends. You are the fakest person I've ever had the displeasure of supporting. Reading and hearing of how you've really viewed me behind my back, not just through screenshots of your man, but also your own messages, while having to sit here and read through these bullshit lies you spin, makes me want to vomit. To claim that you didn't know a single thing and had zero awareness of what your man was up to, when everyone who's shared even a single moment with you knows that you basically operate as the same person, sharing every waking moment while loving to jump at the slightest opportunity to turn into your most slanderous self as soon as the opportunity was given, even when talking about your friends, is sickening. I have experienced your own actions without red in a situation where in your own screenshotted words, you express a pressure to live up to what Lily is, and proceeded to throw one of your most loyal and supportive friends under the bus after months of continuous planning just because you consistently chose business over friends, never feeling bad for failing them. Just to earn the bag and compete with me over a V-Card collab that you rescheduled to be on the exact date your friend needed you to keep an important promise. You actively lied about it to them, instead blaming me for a collab you rescheduled, adding me to the pool of excuses to save your ass when you realized you were being a bad friend. Why blame me for choosing to miss an obligation you agreed to on one of the most important days in your friend's career? Everything you do is out of competition through your constant need to one-up the people who are the sole reason you even have these opportunities and platforms to earn from to begin with. You're welcome, by the way. You claim that it's just business. Well, in the business world, there has to be accountability, and all you've done is try to shove it away and admit to nothing. In true narcissistic fashion, you're only feeling sorry about yourself and your own consequences and your career, and try to salvage it. I'm sorry for everyone who looked up to you as an inspiration, and I'm especially sorry for your fans. Pyro Pups deserve better. 95,000 likes, ladies and gentlemen. This was a scorcher. This wasn't coming at him with a steel chair out of nowhere off the top rope. This was out of nowhere with a steel chair from the top rope. This was an absolute bomb of a response. As you can see, 95,000 likes versus 13,000 likes on the apology tweet. Absolute devastation. Let's look at a couple more VTubers here. And also I want to mention too, Shy Lily is a big part of GamerSups, who, by the way, Sinder is a partial owner of. So coming out to basically slam a person who is a partial owner of a company you work pretty regularly with, that is a ballsy move. And man, she must look pretty stupid right now. Sinder, that is, for everything going on here. Here's Vebe saying, the old classic shift, the blame onto the boyfriend, fake a breakup, come back single and in therapy, and then capitalize on what's left of your community. They deserve better. Then you have Nanners commenting on this, saying, I've seen Silver receive so much harassment and unfair comparisons to you over the years, and she just tanked it. Minded her business and never once tried to sabotage your success or tear you down. Deflecting and outright lying several times in this response instead of fully owning up to your mistakes is insulting to everyone. I can't help but feel very frustrated on behalf of my friend and everyone who was on the receiving end of so much unnecessary stress, largely due to the choices you made. They handled the situation with much more grace than you decided to, and they deserve better. The weird backhanded remark you made the first time we ever met last year stuck with me, and now it makes a lot more sense knowing that this is apparently how you normally view and treat people. I hope you can learn from this and realize It's way easier to be kind and to be happy for your success as well as the success of others. And here's a comment from Megalodon VT saying, I looked up to you, man. Well, that was the first mistake. You shouldn't look up to anime girls on the internet. That's mistake number one, especially one who's a big breakout a couple years ago was doing a cover of a song about basically giving top. That's pretty much all it was. But anyways, let's move on. Here's another one saying, as if boyfriend and girlfriend don't tell each other every single little thing. You are blaming him to save yourself. I am disappointed in both of you. Shame on you for the pain you have caused all your friends just so you can be the best. And one more here from Sorry saying, mistakes, jealousy, and losing control are understandable. You can grow from them, but betrayal is different. It shows you're willing to sacrifice close friends whenever it's convenient, and no business should ever justify that. Brutal, but very true. Now, a lot of people have been making memes, okay? A little more lighthearted notion here. There's some very good memes coming out of this situation. Let's start with this one.
Okay, I confess. SpongeBob killed him.
His profile picture, this is the real profile picture of the manager boyfriend. It's just perfect for everything going on. And you have Rima here doing an AI crossover with the ukulele apology. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like she's playing the ukulele here, but anyways, we have this one with Rick and Morty.
Hey, I found a ticket. Wow, you are just, ladies and gentlemen, the Jackie Chan of human shielding. Who takes the time to get this good at this?
Beautiful. Here's another one, Google Docky. Everyone's saying Google Docky because of the chicken jockey thing. You get it? You get it? Here's another one where someone said, at Grok, explain this doc like a shy anime girl using common Japanese words mixed in. How far the future has come, ladies and gentlemen. This is absolute gold. Also, people are making some statements that I think are pretty odd, too. Like, the reaction's very pessimistic, I would say. This person said, if y'all think Sinder is the only VTuber that does this, y'all are insane. I can guarantee that 90% of VTubers do this. You have no friends in this industry. That's just facts. Also, not exclusive to VTubers. It's just more women run in these circles. Oops. Yeah, I get that, like, this happens among content creators. There's always drama and backstabbing. But to think 90% of VTubers are going to backstab you and they're not your friend, it's all fake, like, that seems like projection. Like, you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people. I definitely recommend being very careful with who you share anything with or try to form a bond with, because yeah, it is a business for a lot of people, but I wouldn't be so pessimistic about everything. There's plenty of people who are good in the VTubing scene and in content creation generally. But where do we go from here? I don't know. Can Sinder salvage any of this? I'm sure she can come back at a very limited capacity. There's going to be people who just don't care about this sort of stuff. But yeah, she's actually pretty cooked. I'm surprised it's had as much backlash as it has. Not just the fans going, but also all of her former friends and former collaborators. I mean, everyone's come out of the woodwork to publicly denounce her. And I think it's pretty deserved. And that's it for now. So as always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.